What I've found after analyzing for 4 years now is a vacation rental, no matter which strategy you pick, typically will make you about 3 times what a normal rental property will make you. And so I would tell you, just dive in. Learn everything you can so you don't make a misstep. You got to know the rules and the laws and what each city requires. You got to follow that thoroughly. And if you do, with a little bit of effort and a little bit of education, it is much, much better than any other real estate strategy I've done in the last 25 years.
Welcome to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association, providing benefits and services to real estate investors and rental property owners for over 48 years. With your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group.
This episode is sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB & Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com. Hello and welcome to episode 339.
Hello and welcome to the RPOA Alternate Strategies and Short-Term Rentals Expert Panel. We have an incredible panel here for you today. And this panel is going to go beyond your typical short-term vacation rental, and it dives into alternate and lucrative strategies that you might want to consider. And we are lucky to have this incredible panel this morning, starting with Robyn Thompson. And now I know some of you will be here this afternoon and this evening to hear Robyn speak. Robyn is nationally known as the Queen of Rehab, and she will be our featured speaker this afternoon on that topic. But Robyn is also an expert on vacation rentals, and she has a system that provides a premium experience in very specific locations. I urge all of you to be here this evening at 7 p.m. Who's going to be here at 7 p.m.? All right, excellent. Let's pack that room tonight. And Robyn will be sharing her system on building massive wealth with vacation rentals. But this morning, you'll get to experience a little sneak preview of that. We also have Barb Bookout here in the middle. Barb has bypassed vacation rentals altogether at this point, and she has concentrated her business on 30-day or longer rentals right here in Grand Rapids. Barb owns a commercial building in downtown Grand Rapids, and for the past 7 years, she's been running it as a vacation rental. 4 years ago, she transitioned to 30 days or longer rentals and now rents to visiting students and traveling medical professionals. Jeremy Garcia is a Muskegon area investor with several short-term rentals. Now, full disclosure, Jeremy and I are partners on an 8-unit boutique Airbnb hotel in downtown Muskegon. And I'm sure you'll be talking about that. We recently purchased it. We're currently building it out. Now, instrumental to Jeremy's strategy is renting to traveling nurses who often stay in his furnished units for 2 to 3 months at a time. Mm-hmm. Jeremy and his wife, Melanie, are expanding this model to include not just traveling medical professionals, but also corporate and executive clients. So why don't we start our panel with you, Robyn?
Okay.
I have a set the table kind of question for you. Can you start us off briefly by explaining what the traditional short-term vacation rental strategy is and how you are approaching it a little bit differently to generate even more profits?
Well, for me, I have vacation rentals in Branson, Missouri, which is definitely a vacation destination. They have over 100 shows a night and amusement parks and all that. And I also have vacation rentals in Florida where I live. So I went back and forth, which is the best strategy to go with. What I found out, they're both phenomenal. I originally thought that Branson would be slow in January and February, so that I would own them in Florida, because Florida should be super busy in January and February with everybody wanting to get out of the Arctic and come down. What I found out is they're busy year-round, no matter what. So for me, in Branson, typically the average stay is 3 to 4 days. It's actually 3.5 days. Florida, we have everything from a 2-night to a 3-month when our horse show comes into town. When the horse show's in town, people take it for 90 to 120 days with no vacancy in the middle. So comparing the two markets for me, profitability-wise, return on my investment-wise, price of the units, the price of the units in Branson to get a 5 or 6 bedrooms about $600,000, where I can get a house in Florida for $200,000. What I can tell you, they're both great. What I've found after analyzing for 4 years now is a vacation rental, no matter which strategy you pick, typically will make you about 3 times what a normal rental property will make you. And so I would tell you just dive in. Learn everything you can so you don't make a misstep. You got to know the rules and the laws and what each city requires. You got to follow that thoroughly. And if you do, with a little bit of effort and a little bit of education, it is much, much better than any other real estate strategy I've done in the last 25 years. And I'm 480 houses in now, coming on the back end of my career. I've taken vacation rentals and nightly rentals so seriously that Monday I'm closing on 69 acres to build 100 more in Branson. And I can't see any other reason why to do some of the other strategies in this game anymore because the profitability is so high and it's very simple and you basically are going to run the business from this. And so with the 14 that I have right now, it takes me about 4 hours a week. And so that's why for me, I'm moving everything I have in my real estate game to that particular strategy.
Did I mention that Robyn's going to be talking at 7 p.m. tonight back here, either in this room or the next room? Be here for that. Barb, let's go to you. You have a very specific strategy here in Grand Rapids. Now, Grand Rapids is very stringent on their Airbnb rules and requirements, but you figured out a way to work within that system, and you have a very particular model. Can you share that with us?
As an introduction, I have a little 4-story historic property between the Van Andel Institute and the Grand Rapids Community College, half a block from the Butterworth Spectrum Health Medical Complex, Medical Mile area. I bought the building 33 years ago for my publishing office. I've run 2 different companies out of there, and real estate was a sideline. I put 2 kids through college as a single parent using that building. I call it the giving tree, if you're familiar with that book. If I need this, it gives it to me. If I need that, it gives it to me. And now I live there, so it's giving me that. I had just regular rentals. I went to a conference, national convention. One of the people in our group came waltzing over to our luncheon and said, well, you guys are paying $300 a night to stay here, and I'm only spending $50. I'm staying in someone's house. I said, what is that about? And I got home, woke up the next morning, laying in bed, looking on my phone, what is an Airbnb? And I started renting part of my own unit. So that's how I began, and then I wanted to transition. It's easier on the property than having tenants. I don't have patience for tenants. I am too old for tenants. I am a great grandma. So I went to the city and I said, what can I do? Can you help me? And they tried every way with every great big book they had to help me. And I either had to sprinkler the building to do a boutique hotel or whatever, and that was not in my plan. All of a sudden, the light bulb went off. I went to the rental property owners, which is why you should belong. And I said, what is the number of days that makes the difference between short-term rental and rental? Because I'm permitted. 30 days is the number. I began immediately to furnish the other units as they became available, used the money from this one to furnish that one, to furnish that one, and put them online, and they immediately rented. So that's how I got started.
And thank you for that organic plug for the RPOA, too. Membership is very important. How many people are members of the RPOA? Awesome. It's great to see so many people with their hands up. Jeremy Garcia, we're doing an Airbnb boutique hotel. And we are doing sprinklers, too, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah, why don't you talk about that? I mean, you do the traditional vacation rental model, and you have some new ones that you're expanding into. Tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Yeah, so we have approach the short-term and mid-term in a multifaceted level, both with single-family and doing commercial complexes to help prevent us from being zoned out of anything. One of the fears is with Airbnb is that people are very much in arms against it right now, taking houses out of the inventory. Airbnbs make up a very, very small portion. In Muskegon, we are talking about less than 0.5%. That doesn't make up the housing shortage. It's a supply issue. But one of our strategies to protect ourselves are to do it in 5 units and up, because then we are zoned for it. We are also using corporate executive rentals and lots of traveling nurses. Quite frankly, I'm pretty lazy. I find it to be the biggest return on our time. You have one person that stays with you for 3 months, it's one turn, and they're going to pay you $2,500, $3,000 a month on a unit that will rent out for $750 on a regular basis. So your return on your time is really important, and it's exponentially higher with furnished units.
So I'd like to give the room an idea of numbers and examples. So can we get specific on, like, each of you with a specific property? What does it cost to acquire it, if you are acquiring it? What does it cost to furnish it? And what kind of income can you expect compared to the income you would get as a traditional rental? And Robyn, why don't we start with you?
I'll pick a house that I had rented. I bought a house for $190,000 with seller financing. I gave the people $30,000 down and then $1,000 a month for 150 months. It's a 1980s grandma house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but it does have a tiny little pool, not much bigger than a bathtub. And so it was renting for $1,450 a month. I had a nurse and her husband who had had it for 4 years. They decided to move, and I thought, okay, let me give this a whirl. And so went ahead and furnished it. To furnish a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with brand new furniture, if you go to one of the furniture stores and do something like 0 interest for 60 months, you're probably looking right now with the price increases with supply chain, probably looking close to $15,000 if you really do it up nice. And I'm a firm believer in making the property very nice because your reviews are what matter. You don't want to be a 4.5 stars. You want to be that 4.8, 4.9. So I go and do a really good job on the furniture and the linens and spend some serious money there. The first year I did the house, it turned a profit of $27,000 versus $1,450. So you can do the math. The second year, tweaking headlines, really getting the reviews in because it's tough to get the first 4 or 5 reviews. Once you do get really good reviews, then the bookings go astronomical. Second year for me, it did $45,000. This last year, 2021, did $55,800. So if you take the $55,800 minus your expenses and your cleaning fees and everything else, it netted around $40,000 versus what it would on a normal rental. And I'm a firm believer as a strategy, take what extra the house throws and put a good portion of that to principal and get them paid off in 4 to 5 years. Because once they're paid off, doesn't matter if we hit a recession or whatever, at that point you can't lose it if it's free and clear.
And just rehash your all-in cost. You put $30,000 down, and I think you said around $15,000
in furniture.
And
I mean, you could have bought the house and went out and got a loan on it, but I figured 0 interest financing from a seller was better than me trying to apply for a mortgage and have appraisals, fees, and all that. With having so many houses, the banks are really not thrilled with lending to me on a normal residential transaction. The stuff in Branson is zoned commercial as a vacation rental. They actually have a zoning classification there, VR. The city welcomes it with open arms, unlike so many others. And so on that, it's a commercial loan, 20% down and 80% financed on the commercial side.
All right, thank you. And Barb, I know you're a little different because you've owned your building for over 30 years. But tell us when you made that transition from, well, first of all, from traditional rental to vacation rental, and then from vacation rental to the 30-day or longer rental. What were some of the costs you incurred and then some of the profit you realized?
Well, I decided at my advanced age to go to Waco for 2 months and got a property management company to manage my regular rentals. When I got back, the leases were expiring and they had no tenants in sight. So I had 4 one-bedroom apartments, and I only have 4 one-bedroom apartments in my own unit, and my office is another level. So I had 0 income other than my short-term Airbnb in my own place, which I welcomed. Again, I was paid for, so I was fine. Not a good long-term strategy, however. So that's when I went to the RPOA. We decided the 30-day thing. And on a credit card, I went out to Court, whose leases, they lease furniture to places like Ramblewood for corporate housing, and when it comes back in a couple of years, they sell to people like me. So I went out and furnished. Now my units they've been renting to students and first year out of college lawyers, and there's no granite, and isn't going to be any granite. But every kitchen has been redone, and we have Formica, and they have gas stoves, and everything is newish within the last 5 years. So we're doing fine. But you don't spend $15,000 on a one-bedroom apartment. You spend more in the order of $1,500. And the most expensive for me is the kitchen. because you have to have utensils, they have to have cooking supplies, they have to have the dishes, they have to have everything. So something you might want to write down if you're going to do more than one is buy all the same. Buy all the same dishes. So if one breaks over here and that guy doesn't need 100 of them, you can move them. But keep it simple, and I'm not going to call you stupid because you're here. However, I think stick with the main and the plain. Court also outletted towels for $2 a piece. Perfectly wonderful, thirsty white towels that can be bleached. So I have so many towels, I could float in heaven on my towels. I have so many towels. But overkill is kind of everything. Have enough sheets so that you got enough to have an extra set, one on the bed, one in the laundry, and one in the cabinet. So if anything happens, you're covered. But that's how I started. I furnished the first one. That one immediately rented. Now, I just made notes while people were talking. I not only have visiting nurses, but the visiting nurses can't get to me in time. So I'm not getting as many traveling nurses. I'm getting people that are getting their rotations in med school, their rotations for physical therapy PhD, their rotations for their pharmacy, because I'm a block from Ferris Pharmacy School, the med school, and I've got people coming from Indiana that are doing rotations at St. Mary's Hospital, and those people know when they're coming, where a visiting nurse may not know until the last minute where they're going to be assigned. And so I'm turning people away. And so I'm going to take my fourth unit and not renew that guy's lease and turn that one into one as well. So, but my very first tenant was someone from Washington State coming to do research, a Lutheran guy doing research in the Christian Reformed College's library for 3 months. That was my first tenant. So you don't decide who your tenant is going to be, decide the type of tenant it's going to be. And then what can they afford is critical. If I'm on vacation, I spend different than if I were, let's say, a pharmacy retail person going on a buying trip. Then it's my bottom line. If I'm treating myself, I spend different money. I have a pocketbook that's business and a pocketbook that's Barb. And while they're both in my pocket, they are looked at incredibly different. So I have notes. So we need to talk about my notes. Long-term isn't for everybody. It's not an answer for everybody. But if you put your short-term rental out with a discount on Airbnb, allows you to say a weekly discount or a monthly discount, then you're opening the door for the longer term. If you don't want less money, don't offer that. It's up to you. That's what I love about this business. You decide. I have my one bedrooms now, one person may book. No parties, no pets, no children. We have quiet hours because of everybody working round the clock for sleeping, especially from 10 till 8 in the morning. And everybody that comes through Airbnb, try this with tenants, abides by my house rules. That doesn't work with tenants. There are real serious advantages. You can do all kinds of different choices, but you need to explore that website. What I would say to you is I have bought courses. For 30 years I've bought courses. Every one of them has taught me something. So take the nuggets that you're going to get today from everybody you hear, but pick out just the ones that work for you. And you decide how you're going to go forward. Make a business plan. I have ADHD. I don't do written business plans. It's all right here. But I talk them to my children, and they know the succession plan. So,
all right, Barb. I'm gonna move on to Jeremy
okay.
here.
Wait, I want to know how much she gets. I want to know how much she gets. She didn't answer.
Yeah,
okay,
How
let's
much?
talk numbers.
I get in the neighborhood without the Airbnb fee. So what I get is about $1,800 a month. My tenant is paying $1,200 a month. When I bought my building 33 years ago, I believe the regular rent was $250 a month. So I am a dinosaur.
So the traditional tenant would be paying $1,200 a month.
Right now, he's paying 12. Now, that's also includes utilities and fiber optics and a downtown parking spot.
But as a 30-day or longer short-term rental, you're getting $1,800 a month.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about Green Property Management. Not only do they manage everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area, they also manage my entire portfolio. So I can tell you from personal experience that their unique flat fee management style is worth a closer look. If you feel that your property isn't operating to its fullest potential, then Green Property Management can help you take a holistic approach that will save you money, eliminate your headaches, and increase your net income. And if you're a property manager interested in applying Green Property Management's model, give them a call at 1-866-95-GREEN or visit them on the web at greenpropertymgt.com. If you're thinking of leaving your W-2 job and becoming a full-time real estate investor, one of the greatest costs you must consider is healthcare for you and your family. When I made this transition myself, I found the whole healthcare insurance process to be confusing and frustrating. That's why I'm glad I met Chad Creasy at RCB & Associates. Chad is a professional health insurance agent who helps real estate investors and small business owners understand and choose their best healthcare options. And best of all, his services are covered by the insurance company and won't cost you a dime. If you live in Michigan and are expecting a change in your healthcare insurance coverage for any reason, or losing employer coverage or transitioning into Medicare, then you owe it to yourself to contact Chad Creasy at rcbassociatesllc.com.
Jeremy, let's talk about you. I know you kind of run the gamut. You have traditional short-term rentals. You have the 30-day or longer, corporate, traveling medical professional, and we're doing the Airbnb boutique hotel. Talk about the different cost structures and income structures.
So for a traditional single family, for example, we have a themed house that's themed into The Great Gatsby from the book. We bought that. We were into it for $125,000. Our first year, we grossed $40,000 in rent on it. The boutique hotel, we're planning on being in right around $1 million on that. Our estimation for that is around $325,000 to $350,000 gross income on that.
What do you think your net will be?
I think our net will be closer to $250,000, $275,000 once it's all said and done.
But everybody needs to listen to that. $1 million invested brings $250 net. That's a 25% return, right? That's why when I say these things make 3 times what normal rentals make, if you rent out $1 million in houses on normal rental, you're not going to come anywhere near that. That's why this strategy is so important for everybody to learn.
And manage to the bottom line. That's exact what she said is she think bottom line.
And then corporate with that, we're generally getting, for a 1-bed in Muskegon, which would normally, you would be looking at probably $600 to $800 at the most. We're renting them out for $2,000 to $2,500 a month. And as a corporate rental, you're talking about 1 turn every 3-4 months. That's a pretty good return.
And a tenant takes great care.
Yeah, it's nobody's staying with you if they haven't paid. It's not like with a tenant where you're hoping they're going to pay you. You are being paid before they stay.
All right, fantastic. Well, I want to get to audience questions and answers here in a moment, but I have one more kind of quick answer type question for all 3 of you. And what is the competitive advantage that you have? Like what separates you from your competition in your specific area? And Robyn, we'll start with you.
For me, I spend a good amount of money on really nice furniture, and I, like Jeremy, like to theme my properties. The stuff I have in Branson is all the rustic lodge appearance. So naming them Black Bear Lodge, Dancing Bear Lodge, and then theming them. People want an experience. And the clientele that I go after have money to spend $700 a night. And so those particular types of guests, when they come in, they're usually a family. The grandparents pay for the unit, and then the kids with the grandkids all come along. But what happens is that clientele is really, really respectful of your property, take good care of it. And like he said, they'll book for 4 or 5 nights and pay $4,000 up front. And so I'm after the guests where I have no cleanup, no breakage, no parties, no wild stuff. The house comes back as clean as it was when they came in. And most of mine all summer long are booked at 99% capacity. So I have guests checking out at 10 and new guests checking in at 4. So when you're turning a house that sleeps 16 to 18, it's important that you go after the clientele. And I think if we do have a recession, that clientele has money and they will still vacation. They won't go internationally if we go into a recession, but they'll still come to the lakes And so I think you need to plan which type of properties you have. So if we do have a recession, because I think there's one around the corner, that you definitely don't feel it.
And Barb, what's your competitive advantage? What separates you from the other 30-day or longer rentals?
Well, I'd say the proximity to everything that surrounds me. I walked here today. I didn't need a parking space. And people who are coming for conferences and so forth, that's more my short-term rental, weddings, etc. So on my notes, one of my top things is location, location, location. And if you want to go be by a lake, I'm not the person. They're your people. And so when you're developing your plan, that's what you need to consider. Buy for the location, for the client you're intending to serve.
And Jeremy, I want you to mention the Gatsby House again. Oh, there goes my coffee. Mention the Gatsby House again, and then also what else gives you the competitive advantage in your space?
I think quality is what sets us out from everyone else. We look at this as an investment. We're not going to try and cheap out and cut corners. We really want this to maintain for the long term. Like with the Gatsby House, it is a very unique house. There's lots of plaster moldings that are Corinthian style throughout the house that are all painted out in gold leaf. We built a speakeasy into the garage. So it is thematically all the way through. I mean, the silverware in it is gold to match the paint and the moldings. So we've tried to carry it all the way through the house and make it stand out from everyone else. And we're doing that by making sure it is of a top quality. The themes and quality, I really think, are what separate us out from everyone else.
So I want to open it up to Q&A. Does anyone have a question?
This question is for Robyn, actually, in particular. You mentioned that in the summer you get 99% bookings. What happens in the rest of the year, and is summer enough to cover for the whole year?
Well, Branson is a 10-month out-of-the-year destination. At least that's what everybody told me when I bought there. Branson's very big on the Christmas season also. Magically, at midnight on October 31st, the entire town turns to Christmas, and the shows start November 1st. So the fall season's very busy for us, too. When I first bought in Branson, everybody told me nobody comes to Branson in January and February when it's cold and icy like this coming weekend. I said to my team at the office, if one family's coming to Branson, I want them. So most of the people in the 62-unit complex that I have leave their prices set up at $400 and $500 a night for January and February. I reduced mine down to $199, and I'm booked every weekend. So I think be careful who you listen to. I think people will come no matter what. Some folks just want to go to a really nice house and watch movies and relax. They don't need to be in all the hustle and bustle. So what I think you really ought to do is look at other houses that are in your area that are the 4.8 stars and up, and look at their rental history. Most of the houses I've researched around the country are at about an 85 to 86% capacity all the time. And so that's why I'd just be careful who you listen to, would be my guess to you.
Good morning, I'm Scott. A question on Airbnb. So when you buy a property that's already listed, and let's say it is a 4.8, are you able to inherit the history a little bit with Airbnb, and is that a positive? Because you got to build your own history then.
I've had it go both ways, and I want to be clear. I'm not just on Airbnb. I'm on VRBO also. VRBO to me is richer people, longer stays. So I'm on both platforms. And there's 9 different platforms if you want to get on all of them. But syncing all the calendars between each other gets a little hairy. For me, with just VRBO and Airbnb, the 2 calendars talk to each other. So if I get a booking on one, it'll take it off of the other. So I would tell you to be on both. So for me, when I bought some of the houses that are already up and existing, I asked to close in 60 days so I have time to migrate the pictures and everything over to my platform and have the owner stop taking bookings. There has been 2 occasions where I've been able to convince VRBO to let everything transfer over. I hate to say it, sometimes it takes 6 or 7 times calling in, getting a different customer service rep to get a different answer, but that has happened. If it ends up that you're starting from scratch, you're taking a house that's not listed and you're making it a vacation rental, what I would do is encourage some of your friends to come and stay and let them book it. And they better give you a good review if you let them in for $29 or $39 a night, just thinking out loud. So that's one way to jumpstart a house. We just had a new house we listed in January, and we themed it, like Jeremy. It's called Horsey Hideaway with a hot tub, and it's right close to the World Equestrian Horse Center. We had 6 bookings in 2 days without any bookings at all. If the pictures are really, really nice, it doesn't take much to book it. I would tell you the first picture is absolutely critical. You got 4 seconds to grab them. We'll talk a lot about this tonight. Your second picture needs to be an amenity, like a hot tub or a pool table or an air hockey table. And most of my houses have 3 amenities, one for the ladies, one for the guys, and one for the kids. So I go most beautiful picture of the house, and then amenity, amenity, amenity. Then I start showing living rooms and bedrooms, because the amenities are what are hooking them. So I think if you got some amenities, some things for them to do, that helps.
Barb, you talked about check out a website. What website is that?
Either the VRBO website or the Airbnb website. They have a terrific setup for you pretending you want to host, and you can explore all over the place. And you can also actually put a house up there and not make it live. Change the pictures, get better pictures, buy better furniture or whatever, but you've got something that with a click of a button you can make live. Another strategy, just to piggyback with Robyn, if you're inheriting from someone else, is I would prefer to start from scratch and not inherit that person's reputation, because I already have a reputation. And what I would do would be to get the pictures up and going and block my calendar for the days they already have it booked, let them have the money and make that part of the close.
The particular house I bought had $40,000 in future bookings. So understand, when I put it under contract in February, closing in May, he already had $40,000 in bookings. So you want to make sure that you get that money. But for me, because he had 85-star reviews, I wanted what he had. So, but I mean, he's a 3.0 rating. You don't want that for sure.
No.
Yeah, I'm in Adrian, and I have 4 Airbnbs there, and we have done quite well with them. And recently we have done some traveling nurses and such. But my question, I guess, would be, all of ours are on for instant bookings through multiple channels. And so how do you keep your calendar available? Do you turn off instant bookings and only do by, accepting? Or how do you hold your availability for like the longer term stays?
My longer term stays are not open for instant booking. I want them to ask me questions. And my short term, which is in my house, that is available for instant booking, because those are weekend people. I live in my house during the week, and I only make it available for 4 possible weekend nights. Take your pick, but I'm coming home on Monday. So, I want to know who's coming, why are you coming to Grand Rapids in the longer term? Because anybody can be pretending to be anybody, unfortunately.
You had mentioned no kids, and that made me think of emotional support animals. What's the laws about that, and do they have to tell you if they have one, and can you not allow them?
I have no idea if they have to tell me, but I have not had to face that issue, except for one guy who tried to kind of sneak it in the night before he was to come. And it says right in my listing, no animals. And it's an allergy issue in my building.
Right.
People expect no smoking, they expect no pets of any kind, and Airbnb handled it. Whether they should or not is their problem, but they handled it.
Jeremy, Robyn, do you have to conform to any of the emotional support animal rules that traditional landlords might?
Yeah, you do. But the way we combat that is just make everything pet friendly. The way we see it is a lot of people are willing to take their pets to a kennel and pay $35 a night. I'd much rather just have that money come to me than go to a kennel, because an extra $35 a night adds up really fast.
So you have
And that's cheap.
Yeah.
Some of us are at $55 or $60 a night. And here's one of the statistics I've tested over the last 4 years. 85% of guests want to travel with their pet, but only 15% of the folks allow it. So I converted one of mine that was non-pet friendly to pet friendly. It went from $56,000 in revenue one year to $89,000 in revenue the next. So everything now that we build is all brand new Cortex vinyl plank floor and a lot less carpet.
In building and designing houses, bathrooms and kitchens are the things that people preach. Do you find that your short-term tenants or guests rather care less about kitchens, big islands, big square footage in common spaces, if there's multiple, say, units or bedrooms in a particular space? I guess same question regarding bathrooms and sizes of bathrooms relative to homeowners. And then a secondary one, you mentioned something about, Barb, you mentioned something about asking questions to bookings. If I had 50 Airbnbs, I wouldn't want to ask a single question to anybody. It just sounds like a ton of work. Can you approach it in a way that you don't ask anything? Is there a way to pre-qualify and screen and all of that? Thank you.
Yeah, you turn that instant book feature he mentioned on, and then you say to Airbnb, I want to know they had a credit card, I want to know you have their ID, and then Airbnb will just open that switch, however you open switches in computers, and they don't need to answer anything. Some of them do. Why do I choose? Because these are long-term where I choose to, and I want to know why they're coming to spend time in my place for 3 months. I find that in the back and forth, they self-eliminate. I don't say no.
For me, the kitchen's important, especially the more people that are sleeping in the house, because that's where they want to all get together and congregate. So I think you need to have a good-sized kitchen. For me, in the new builds that I'm starting, as many bedrooms as I can get with a private bathroom is super critical. People don't want to share bathrooms, do Jack and Jill if they don't have to. So on a 7-bedroom house, I'm going to have at least 6 bathrooms, 3 of them with the bedroom, so they're private master suites. And what you got to realize is you got to look at how many people your house sleep. The bigger your living rooms are, you can do sleeper sofas. So the more people it sleeps, the more you can charge. There are some bedrooms that I'm building that are big size where I can do a queen over a queen trundle bunk bed that'll sleep 6 kids. Because when families get together, haven't seen each other in a while, all the kids want to pile in together, and the parents are great. Let's put that where it'll be the least amount of noise to affect the living rooms. So I think positioning of which rooms you pick for the kids is important too. Yeah, and I'm not going to do anything bigger than a 7-bedroom. I do have friends who have 10s and 12s and 15-bedroom houses that'll sleep 40 people. That's a lot more parties, a lot more groups, a lot more wear and tear, and a lot more issues on after they leave for the cleanup. What I've seen is the 6 and 7-bedroom house, there's not nearly the crazy parties. It's a family-oriented size house, and that's the clientele that I'm after. I do Instabook. Mine are all on Instabook. They weren't in the beginning. I had to watch every person, know every single thing about them, where you're coming, why you're coming. So once I switched Instabook on, my revenue went up about 30%. But what I would tell you is you still should just gaze down across your Instabooks. You have 24 hours to go ahead and change your mind. If somebody had some bad reviews written about them for leaving a house in a not-so-good situation, you could always call Airbnb and VRBO and request you cancel. You can cancel 1 out of 100 bookings without affecting your Premier Host or Superhost status. So I would watch, though, as the bookings come in. What I get very scared about in Florida is if I have somebody local who lives in the town who books the house and they put 1 guest in. It just doesn't seem right. You live down the street and you're coming all by yourself. That one, I will call it out. I will call them. I will inquire. Because once they say they have 1 guest, if they're bringing more, they broke the rules. And so I just had that happen New Year's weekend. Obviously, New Year's, you got a chance. You're going to have some parties. The guy said, no, coming in for a wedding. It's just me. And then my house, obviously, was the party house. So I did report him back to Airbnb. He's lost his privileges. He'll never be able to use Airbnb again. And so for me, I charge a $59 insurance charge, which insures my house for $1,500, but I also hold a $500 security deposit. I use both. Some guests don't like that. They complain. They don't want to do it, and I tell them book somebody else's house. Because obviously, if you put some serious money into furnishings and that kind of stuff, you really want to make sure that you've got enough money to protect yourself to replace anything that they've had damaged. 3,500 bookings in for me. I've only had 2 insurance claims. So it doesn't happen nearly as much as you said. I agree with Barb 100% that the guests are much better quality than tenants. But you got to protect yourself with the insurance and the security deposit.
Jeremy, your thoughts on kitchens and bathrooms?
I think it's crucial. For me, and almost all of ours, we have new kitchens, we have full bath remodels. The only advertisement you have are some pictures. Most of the time, people won't even use your kitchen, but they want to feel like they're at a luxury place. They want to feel like, oh, I'm going to use that fancy coffee maker that I'll probably never touch. They'll get there and just end up going to Starbucks instead. So, the emotional attachment to it, I think, is really important, getting those people to book. And then, it's really about bath counts. You got those ratios. You don't want people lined up to go outside and wait to use the bathroom. So you have to be cautious on that. People will definitely complain about it if you don't have enough bathrooms. So for us, if we have a 4-bed house, we won't do as big as Robyn. We the biggest ones we'll do is 8. That'll host 8 people. But you have to have at least 2 baths at that point, preferably 2.5 or 3, because that ratio for people is getting really important, and then just gets messier and messier if you have too many people, not enough bathrooms.
2 questions, if I may. One, for each of you, would your numbers work if there were like a governmental change that disallowed even, a 30-day short-term rental? And then secondly, a calendar question. With a 30-day minimum booking, let's say you had a booking for 30 days and then another booking 3 weeks later for another 30 days. What do you do for the 3 weeks in between? Thank you.
You cannot book that time. And that is an Achilles heel to 30-day rentals. But it is a time that I can get the carpet cleaned. I can change the carpet out. I can retile something that if I'm this to this to this, I don't have time for that. So I was just at the carpet place yesterday and I said, well, you could do it March 29th or you can do it in May. So when are we going to do it? And so to have little bites. But right now I have a pharmacy PhD candidate, and the day he leaves, I have 1 day to clean, which I require. My calendar blocks 1 day, and his buddy's coming in the very next day. And below them is the third person. So all of a sudden, the pharmacy school loves me to death.
Robyn, the government were to overnight say no more vacation rentals, no more 30-day rentals. It has to be traditional 6, 12-month type leases. Would your numbers pencil out?
Yeah, because in Florida it would, because the houses that I had normal rentals, I converted to vacation rentals. So I'm okay in Florida to go back to what they originally were. Branson, the reason I'm investing heavily there, they have a particular zoning classification that was created by the town called vacation rental. And once you have it, they're not changing it. So most cities don't have that particular zoning class that they created just for the vacation rental industry. Branson would die without them because all of the theaters and shows. So that's why the city welcomes it with open arms, and that's one of the reasons I've only chose Branson and where I'm at. I'm not all over the place.
We're going to do the fire round here and get one question quickly, quick answers, one person answering. Go ahead.
So this is a question for any of you, really. Do you do anything specific to market to the nurses or the corporate travelers?
Jeremy, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, there's multiple things. You can go on Furnish Finders, which is trying to become like the lead source for travel nurses. It's $100, put your listing up there. Not a lot cheaper than Property Manager is. We get inquiries through Airbnb. You can get directed into the staffing agencies themselves. You can work with the Chamber of Commerce, reach out directly to any of the large employers. So if there's defense contractors or anything like that, around here you have Steelcase. There's any large employer is going to have people coming in for temporary things, for projects, different things like that. They're all going to be looking for things. No one wants to live in a hotel for 3 months. Somebody will want to cook within 3 months. So it's once you start establishing those and creating those relationships, they start flowing in.
My question is, when you're evaluating a market that you're not familiar with, how do you efficiently and quickly evaluate the rules and regulations of that particular town or city?
Call city zoning and planning and ask them.
Yeah, that should be your first call.
I would physically go there. You're good. And then be careful in homeowners HOA associations, because they can change that on a dime.
Has anybody had any problems with cannabis and the smell it leaves behind if your guest uses it?
Well, I don't permit smoking in any of my units.
Doesn't mean they won't.
But and they respect that. So I've had people walk in the city of Grand Rapids. You can't smoke outside of a building within 25 feet of a window or a door. So I have had tenants who said they didn't smoke, but they do, and their clothing brings it in, whether they smoke in your unit or not.
Robyn,
I've only
you got
had
a
it
cannabis?
once.
Yes. I've
Story?
had 4 girls run a place for Valentine's Day. My cleaning team has an ozone machine. That took a lot of it away. And then charcoal filters, changed the filter in the HVAC system to charcoal, and then also hang the charcoal filters in the closets, and that took care of it. And you can get that all that on Amazon.
Ian Boyer from Waker Realtors here. I'm helping some of my clients find new short-term rental properties. And I remember, Jeremy, you talked about a program called AirDNA, so I'm trying to integrate AirDNA with the MLS listings that I have in my off-market listings to help find my clients the perfect, return on investment property. Could you talk more about AirDNA a little bit?
Yeah, so AirDNA is a software that we use to analyze properties. We found it to be conservative, but there are some liberties that are taken into those numbers. So they have all sorts of things you can read through on it, but like it does your gross revenue. So it includes your cleaning fees in there, different things like that, things that you'll probably be expensing out. It's a pretty quick way to analyze a property, and then you can do a deeper dive into it. It's for us to make quick decisions. It's been pretty crucial for us. AirDNA, it's a subscription that you pay for. It's very affordable. It's for the Muskegon area, it's $20 a month. The fact that you're going to make an investment into a property that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars seems like you'd spend the $20 to figure it out.
AirDNA.com.
And .co. It's actually it's out of England, so in Europe. Okay. Airbnb has been around a long time.
Thank you. We have one last question.
Hang on. But listen to what he said. You need to do the deep dive. I have a house with a pool. When I used AirDNA, it did not take that fact into account, so the numbers came in extremely low on AirDNA, and my revenue is like $30,000 higher than it projected. So you got to know what your amenities are, and if you got more than what the system's using, you're going to end up creating more. So you could make a decision not to buy something that may turn out to be good. So when he says you got to do the deep dive with AirDNA, you need to.
Is there any cap to how many beds you can allow in your house or in a room?
I would just guess that each municipality might have a different regulation, and that you would need to check that out with, I think in Grand Rapids City, it goes by so many people per square foot in a bedroom. And I don't know how many people per square foot in a bedroom. I just know that somebody does know.
All right, thank you. So we are wrapping up here, and I just want to remind everybody that Robyn will be speaking tonight at 7 p.m. on vacation rentals. Who's going to be there? Who's absolutely going to be there? Excellent. It's great to see so many people excited to hear Robyn speak. And you'll also be speaking this afternoon on rehabs. So make sure you check that out, too. I do want to give a plug for the Short-Term Rental Association. And Barb, you and Jeremy are both members. Anything you want to say about it real quick?
Well, I think if you're going to take, you need to give. And rental property owners and the short-term rental component within that give to us. We have a monthly meeting. You can join us on Zoom. But it also is a political action vehicle for regulations, trying to navigate the state as well as city municipalities. And if you don't plant seeds, you can't grow corn. So,
and Jeremy, there's a special running these 2 days. Do you know what it is?
So we're doing a discount. It'll increase after the conference. So, if you have interest in it, I would definitely try and jump on it now. It's going to be well worth your time. There's a ton of stuff that you can learn out of the organization. You can learn from people who are actually doing it, which is huge. If there's things in here, keywords, like if you hadn't heard of AirDNA, it might be something you might want to consider, because
we have
you can analyze.
Speakers on different issues too. That's how I found my keyless entry people.
Yeah. So every month there's different topics. So there's different things to learn, and you can learn to run it like a business the way it should be. You're not here to squeeze out every penny you can out of this. You're here to run it like a business and make sure you're running it correctly for the long term.
And if you're not a member of the Short-Term Rental Association, today and tomorrow you can join for $50 for the year. I highly recommend it. A lot of great value to it. The three of you have provided incredible value this morning. Thank you for doing this panel. Robyn, looking forward to hearing you tonight and this afternoon. Barb, Jeremy, great job. Let's all hear it for these guys. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. I'm your host, Brian Hamrick from Hamrick Investment Group, and you can find out more about me by going to higinvestor.com. That's higinvestor.com. And you can also ask questions and join us on Facebook by going to RPOA, Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast. This episode was sponsored by Green Property Management, managing everything from single-family homes to apartment complexes in the West Michigan area. Find out more at greenpropertymgt.com. And RCB and Associates, helping real estate investors and small business owners navigate the complex world of health insurance and Medicare benefits at rcbassociatesllc.com.
You've been listening to the Rental Property Owner and Real Estate Investor Podcast, brought to you by the Rental Property Owner Association. You can find out more at rpoaonline.org. If you enjoyed this podcast, please go to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review.